Is the murders of Bill and Peggy Stephenson on May 29, 2011 connected to the February 13, 2017 murders of Liberty German and Abigail Williams? An investigator in the Stephenson murders case believes there's a possible link.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
One of Boone County's most horrific killings remains unsolved. It's 12 years later, but the detectives working the Stephenson case are leaving no stone unturned. In recent months, their investigation has led them even to Indiana to look at a possible connection to this highly publicized Delphi murders.
Yeah, Jessica Schmidt digs into these new developments in part one of this story from Cincinnati's Crime Vault.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner make up Boone County's cold case unit, yet they say the murder of Bill and Peggy Stephenson is far from cold. In fact, they've traveled to at least 14 other states to follow up on leads, including several trips to Delphi, Indiana. And they're pursuing potential breaks in the case using a DNA profile.
May 29, 2011 was a sunny Sunday in the suburbs.
It was a spring day, like most around here in northern Kentucky.
But the day quickly turned dark after a gruesome discovery.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
Two people, both 74 years old, were found dead inside their Boone County home. A beloved husband and wife, Bill and Peggy Stephenson. A concerned family member found them when they didn't show up for church.
We think it was, a very quick surprise attack. There was some blunt force trauma.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner Tim Adams were sent to the scene. The house had been altered and the bodies were staged.
There were things that were done to their bodies that was horrific. They changed several things in the scene, which is really, really unusual for any murder scene anywhere in the country or in the world.
Whoever killed the couple did not take off right away.
There was quite a bit of time that the perpetrators, the killers, stayed in the residence or felt comfortable coming back to the scene.
In general, detectives believe that kind of behavior points to a suspect who knows the victims, and Bill and Peggy Stephenson were loved by many.
They were amazing people, good Christian people. They wanted to share their faith and their love with the community. And
they've missed out on so much. They've missed out on weddings. They've missed out on 3 new great-grandbabies, graduations, like I said, weddings of the grandkids. All the grandkids are married.
That's Bill and Peggy's daughter, Beth Stephenson Victor. She describes her parents as devoted churchgoers, a couple who loved their big family. Peggy was the quiet one, an experienced and talented musician.
Played for many weddings, funerals, played for a couple of the grandkids' weddings. She loved to play the organ. She played the piano too.
Bill was the opposite, known as the life of the party. A man heavily involved in ministry, he shared his faith with truck drivers every Sunday at a truck stop in Florence.
They had a trailer out that they would open up during the week, and if truckers wanted to stop in and pray, they would pray with them.
That connection to the community became a possible lead for detectives Cox and Adams. Today, they handle the sheriff's cold case unit, but they're still investigating the Stephenson case. Over the years, they've interviewed a lot of truck drivers.
Early on in the investigation, we had information that someone had been at the truck stop looking for Bill pretty aggressively, banging on the door of the chapel, asking if anyone had seen Bill.
There are truckers they've ruled out, others still on their radar. They've also looked into Charles Stevie Stephenson, the nephew of Bill and Peggy. Detective Cox says they've even spoken to him recently. Stevie is locked up, spending life in prison for beating an Indiana woman to death with a skillet.
We feel pretty comfortable that that's in a good place. There is no final statement on there. It isn't that he's been cleared. but we have certainly vetted him in every way possible.
One of the largest developments in the case could still bring them the break they need to close it. Detective Cox says they have an unknown DNA profile.
We don't know who that DNA belongs to, and it was found at our crime scene.
It is complex, so genealogy isn't an option, at least right now. There is testing they can do to try to find a match, and that's something they're actively pursuing.
We're just still hopeful that they'll come up with the right evidence that they need, and a confession would be great. But we're still hopeful that they'll solve it.
More than a decade later, tips continue to come in. Detectives even traveled across state lines in recent weeks to see if what happened to the Stephensons has any connection to the murder of 2 young girls in Delphi.
We had received some information from an individual regarding the Delphi murders in Indiana, and they had said, for all of these reasons, we believe it may be the same person that was involved in the Stephenson case.
There's still much more to share, and part 2 will explain what detectives are doing now with that DNA profile, and will tell you exactly what led them to Delphi and what's happening now with that lead. Plus, Bill and Peggy's daughter shares more about the impact this tragedy has had on the family. Part 2 is at 10:30.
In a new Fox 19 article, the Boone County investigators claimed they had obtained information from a tip in November 2022 about a possible link to the Delphi murders and about a specific person who had a specific item they were interested in. The detective in the Stephenson murders case said the potential link between the 2 cases did not include Richard Allen. The investigator also claimed they had been in the northern part of Indiana investigating a person of interest.
Wow.
A nightmare that you never wake up from, and that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy.
So for nearly 10 or 12 years, the dark, devastating murders of Bill and Peggy Stephenson have left a lot of loved ones just living in fear.
Yeah, answers could be coming as detectives follow up on new leads involving DNA testing and a potential connection to Delphi, Indiana.
Jessica Schmidt explains the very latest developments in part 2 of this story from Cincinnati's Crime Vault.
Well, at this stage of the investigation, detectives tell me they are not prepared to rule anything or anyone out. They've tried everything, including talking to mediums and psychics and announcing a $50,000 reward for information. And they're working on some of their latest leads right now.
The disturbing deaths of Bill and Peggy Stephenson left so many in the Boone County community shattered.
It was just horrible, just to find out that they're both gone and that it wasn't an accident, wasn't carbon monoxide. It was at the hands of somebody else. It was almost too much to bear.
The couple was murdered inside their own home in May 2011 after living lives filled with love and ministry. Their daughter, Beth, calls it an incredibly scary situation.
You were constantly looking over your shoulder, and just up until about 3 years ago, my front blinds never opened. Just within the last 3 years, I've been able to sit with the blinds open.
It was a complex crime scene.
It's pretty bad that somebody could that they could stage something and stay with bodies like that for, multiple hours. It's pretty sick.
That's why detectives Coy Cox and Tim Adams are not willing to close the door on anything.
We are careful in this case because of the complexity of some of the evidence, not to say that anyone has been ruled out. But we certainly take it all the way down the path as far as we can to where it's like, okay, we don't see the need to go on down this path because it's not looking like that is our individual.
In November 2022, a tip led them to a neighboring state.
We had received some information from an individual regarding the Delphi murders in Indiana, and they had said, for all of these reasons, we believe it may be the same person that was involved in the Stephenson case.
Right away, detectives started looking into a possible connection between Bill and Peggy's 2011 murder and the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German in Delphi, Indiana in 2017, a case that's garnered national attention.
There's things that will make you really interested in a case, simply more than just somebody saying, hey, we think this person might have been involved. But we had a little piece of information that really made that case specifically interesting to us.
The information pointed Boone County investigators toward a specific person who had a specific item they were interested in.
I'm not going to tell you about that, what that item was. We've recently been in the northern part of Indiana, investigating this guy, following him around, looking for things, collecting all of the information and the evidence that we would need to at least vet him as best we could with our case. He was cooperative. We were able to go down that path with him, and he articulated good reason to why that may have existed.
They sent what they found to Indiana State Police, since they are handling the murder investigation of Abby and Libby. To be clear, Detective Cox says their investigation into a potential link between the two cases did not include Richard Allen.
We received information from Indiana as it related to some persons, and we forwarded that to them. We did not send them the information that led them to Richard Allen. We sent them information that may have had some parallel consistencies with where they are with that case right now.
When Boone County detectives were in Delphi, Allen was already in jail, where he has been since October of 2022, accused of Abby and Libby's murders.
I know that sounds a little cloak and dagger, but I'm just sorry about that. We're not going any further with that.
That's not the only lead they're following.
We have two gentlemen that are in the trucking profession that we have collected DNA from, and we are awaiting response back from the Kentucky State Police Lab.
They're waiting on results from the lab to see if the truck driver's DNA matches the unknown profile found at the Stephenson crime scene. It has Detective Cox feeling hopeful. As someone who has been on the case since day one, it's personal.
That's hard. That's on my watch. That's my case. I want to solve it. I don't want to say it's more special, but it's a very special case, and really like to get it solved, as we would all of them, obviously. But yeah, this one has a little extra, tug.
For Bill and Peggy's family, all of these developments feel like a step toward peace, justice, and healing.
Somebody deserves to pay for what they did, and I think we owe it to them. I keep looking at their picture. We owe it to them, to find answers for them.
We brought up a lot of leads in this two-part story: DNA testing, the nephew, Stephenson, truckers, and of course that possible connection to Delphi. So where does it all stand right now? Well, Detective Cox stressed they have not ruled anyone out in the Stephenson case. So even though some leads don't look as likely, they haven't eliminated any of them completely. Now, he won't say if they have any specific suspects or people of interest, but told me he does believe whoever did it has committed other crimes. He did confirm they know the exact time the couple died because of a medical device inside one of the victims, something that could help them pinpoint the killer. Anyone with information on this case is urged to call it in right away.